myself, cheaters never win and winners never cheat. Maybe, maybe not. Lloyd spent 3 decades teaching high school, so he saw cheating nearly every day. In fact, he saw enough of it to become a connoisseur of cheating methods. In Project 2, Organize Your Speech, Confident Communication Manual, Lloyd will discuss the 3 essential rules for successful cheating. Please welcome Lloyd Smith in his speech entitled, "If You're Going to Do It Right." Please welcome Lloyd.
If you talk to a typical group of junior high, high school, or college instructors, you will discover that the most aggravating and frustrating thing they deal with almost every day is cheating. It might not seem likely to you, but there are actually surveys that show that almost 80% of all junior high, high school, and college students admit that they've cheated at least once on an assignment during the current school year. Amazingly, about 60% say that it's not wrong to cheat. It depends entirely on the circumstances. In other words, like a small assignment, it's okay to cheat, but not on something big. To me, that sounds a little bit like saying you could be slightly dead or partially pregnant. Aren't you either honest or dishonest? But a lot of kids do not see it that way. The aggravating thing about cheating from a teacher point of view is that it's so hard to detect. You might think it would be simple, but it's not. And that's partially because it's endemic. If everybody's doing it, you don't really notice it. It's kind of like you don't notice the wind blowing a little bit, and it blows all the time. However, over the years, I learned that there are 3 essential rules to cheating. I learned these rules by watching experts do it, namely my students. Rule number 1, don't cheat off of somebody who's dumber than you are. Now, you might think that's obvious, but then again, you haven't been a high school teacher, so you don't really know. I recall one fascinating test that I was giving in a class called Science Fiction Literature. It was an elective literature class. I looked up just in time to see a guy looking over the shoulder of the student ahead of him, cheating. The thing is, the guy who was being cheated from was a mainstream special ed student, and the guy who was doing the cheating was not. He was just, a doper is what he was. And so I looked and I thought, I started to get up to pick up his paper and throw it away, and I thought, he's screwing himself over a lot worse than anything I can do to him. So I just let him finish cheating off of the guy. Then at the end, I gave him an F with 0 points because all of his answers were wrong, and I gave the special ed guy a C because he had worked to the maximum of his ability. When I gave the test back, the guy who cheated looked at his F, and he looked over the shoulder of the guy, and he said, "Hey!" And I could see the gears going in his head. And he realized, how am I going to say I should get the same grade as he did? So that worked out. But the thing is, only copy off of people who are smarter than you. Seems kind of evident. Now, rule number 2 is the mirror image of that. Don't copy off of somebody way smarter than you are. Perfect example of that. In a world literature class one year, we were studying sonnets. We looked at Shakespearean and Petrarchan and whatever the other kind of sonnet is called. Notice the difference in between them. And I told the kids, these things are tricky to write. They're only 14 lines long, but they have a very particular rhyme scheme. They're hard to do. But if you can do one over the weekend and turn it in, if it's a sonnet, I'll give you 25 extra credit points. The next Monday, sure enough, a kid turned it in. Several kids turned it in, but this one kid who did it actually had an F going in the class because he just didn't know what he was doing, and then he wouldn't turn in his work. And when I looked at his paper, I realized it was in perfect 16th century English. Shakespearean English. In fact, I was pretty sure it was one of Shakespeare's sonnets that he had copied out of a book. He was such a fool that he'd only copied 13 of the 14 lines, so he had a problem with that. Anyway, I put a minus 25 on the kid's paper and said, "Congratulations, you not only don't get the extra credit, I'm taking away the 25 points because you cheated so poorly." The next thing I know, his dad, who's a prominent local attorney, was in the main office, and the principal forced me to back down. Now, it worked out okay because as time went on, Every time I scored a test, I made a little arithmetic mistake and took points. And I eventually ended up minus 25 points anyway. But the lesson is clear. Do not cheat off of Shakespeare if you're writing a sonnet. People might notice. And I did. I eventually found the actual sonnet. Shakespeare wrote a bunch of these things, like 150 of them, but I located the actual one eventually in the library. And I thought, well, maybe I should call the kid's dad, and then heck with it, I had already screwed the kid over anyway. So, lesson number 3. If you're going to cheat, do not get caught. One amazing year, a guy no-showed for the final exam of a class, one class I was teaching. Now, he was in a spot where if he had just showed up and taken the final exam, he would have passed the class. He didn't show. Well, too bad for him. That night, the Daily World was a night paper back then, that night, there was a story above the fold on the front page about the Mission Ridge ski area deciding to stay open one last day during the season. A beautiful color picture of a guy skiing, and who do you suppose it was? You know, my student, and it had been taken in the morning, obviously, by the light and everything. He had skipped school to go skiing on Mission Ridge, had his picture appear on the front page of the paper. As fortune would have it, this will astonish you, there is a state law that says if the parents of a student excuse the kid, it doesn't matter whether they're lying, it's an excused absence. That kid's mom wrote him a note that said he was sick. So I had to give him a makeup test, which turned out to be much more challenging than the original test, and he didn't do well at all. You know, I figured it was part of my duty to make sure that cheaters did not win, and indeed that they suffered. Now, the thing about cheating is, you might think, so what? You know, so what if some kid cheats on an essay or whatever? Well, there are several so whats. One of them is that schools spend a tremendous amount of time and effort and even money detecting cheating. Most high schools and colleges subscribe to a service called Turnitin. I don't know if any of you have ever heard that. Student papers are uploaded to that, and then they're compared to a national database of hundreds of thousands of other students' essays and term papers and whatnot. And the software finds ones that are too similar. So if somebody cheats off of it, say an Eastmont kid cheats off a paper done at Wenatchee, the software will match them up and show you who did the cheating. But it costs money to do that. Also, there's another issue. Think about the whole issue of cheating and where it might be done. Suppose you're getting ready to have surgery and you're laying there and your doctor walks up to you. What do you think? What are your odds? Is he going to be one of those 70% who admit to having cheated? You better hope not, Mr. Toastmaster.